Hi, my name is Whitney Pruetting, and this is my evaluation of Amy Yount and Kyle Hudgins, and then the evaluation of myself. I'm going to start off with my evaluation of Amy Yount. I really like how you started off with your speech about how different your memorable speech was going to be compared to everybody else's, how a lot of people were going to be more of sentimental value with weddings, proposals like what mine was, maybe baby things, and yours was the cat, and it was a really sweet story. It's so different. I have a boxer myself, so it was really touching. It kind of brought me in onto your page. I do think some stability on your camera would help. It seemed like the camera was a tiny bit wobbly, so that made it a little bit harder for me to focus. I don't know if it was something that you were holding or not, but maybe that's something that you could work on with like a tripod or something. I do like how you pointed out the mini blinds behind you about your cat, and it was kind of giving us the personality of your cat, but I do think the timing of that was a bit off for the story. Maybe that could have been placed a little bit better towards the end. I think it felt a little bit just out of the realm. Like it just seemed to kind of appeared out of nowhere, and it was just thrown into the middle of your story. I don't know if that maybe was just something on a whim or something, which it was that type of speech sort of, or if it was something that was not planned out. Maybe it just was executed a little bit differently than it should have been. I just think that's maybe one other thing. But all in all, I really liked your speech a lot. I thought it was funny. I was kind of hoping to see your little kitty cat at the very end, but I didn't get to, so maybe next time we'll get to see something like that. But it was a really great speech. I loved listening to it. Next, the evaluation of Kyle Hudgins. Your speech, wow, that was so crazy. I don't know if I could handle something like that. We really enjoyed listening to your speech. It was so scary and suspenseful. I really liked it a lot. I wish that you have maybe gone a little bit slower depth of your story, and maybe of essentially kind of the crash, like maybe elaborating and creating more of a story with it, kind of building it up to make a better climax or something. And another thing that was just maybe the only other thing was the camera angle, and the fan kind of was a little distracting because you kind of see that in the background, and then the way of your camera angle, it did seem really personal, like we were kind of just talking to a friend the way that it was angled, but not super professional. So I think that was another thing that you could possibly work on, is just the angling of the camera. And the one part where you said you had a funny little side note in your story, it was a little distracting because it threw me off in the story when you're talking about how you had your truck fixed at the place the International next to the Flying J just a couple weeks before that. It kind of just threw me off, like it was just maybe out of left field a little bit and didn't really quite make sense into the story. So I think if you're more concerned about a time issue, you could do some more elaborating on actually the crash itself instead of just throwing something completely different in there. Lastly, I think for my elaboration on myself, I think that I need to be working on a better introduction, which I tried more on this time. I think last time my camera started after I was talking, and that kind of threw my introduction off, because as I watched it later on, even I had watched it right afterwards before I had submitted it, and I didn't pay attention. But as I watched it later on, I was like, okay, yeah, when you go with a critical mindset, I kind of was picking apart things, and I thought, oh, my introduction is not super great. Another thing was that I needed to focus more on the camera. I had some notes sitting down in front of me, just like today, and I wasn't really focusing in on the camera. I was kind of doing one of these things or looking down at my notes just because I was nervous. It was my first time. And then another thing, I think one of the things I need to work on a lot is slowing down. My husband tells me that every day if I'm telling anybody a story, he's always like, slow down. I do get kind of excited and kind of get off track and talk a lot, so sometimes when I'm telling something I really like, that's one of the main things. And then I think lastly, for myself, I need to work on my grammar a little bit. I found myself in the speech later on saying things like, what the heck? And I suck at surprises. I could have said something like, what was going on, and I'm the worst at being surprised. Just sounds a little bit more proper, maybe a little bit more articulate. I don't want to sound like I don't know how to speak or have proper grammar. So that was kind of the things I think I myself needed to work on. So hopefully in my next speech I'll do a little bit better at that. And this was my evaluation of Kyle, Amy, and myself. And thank you for listening.